Hi, this is Joel Persinger. I'm the Gun Guy. Thank you very much for watching my videos. I really deeply appreciate it. Now, if you've watched my videos very much, you know I did a video not long ago on the Beretta 92FS. And in that video, I expressed why I don't particularly like that particular design of gun. It's a great gun, it just doesn't fit me, and one of the reasons why I prefer a 1911. Now, that stirred a whole controversy because I expressed the fact that I had carried the gun for many years, a 1911, in what's called Condition 1, which is cocked and locked. And I had lots of people say that's safe and that's not safe and so on. And it was this whole argument that went on. So I thought I would create a video for you explaining what is considered the most safe and why. Now, before I get started, let me just share with you that I have carried a 1911 since I bought it in 1978, I think, or 79. And originally I carried it in this holster right here. This is an old Tex Shoemaker duty holster, and it just has a thumb snap on it. And I still have the holster, and no, the gun has not graced this holster in quite some time. But this is an old Tex Shoemaker basket weave duty holster. I carried the gun in for a long time. And in this holster, you cannot carry the gun unless it's cocked and locked, because the thumb strap is what is in the middle. It won't fit unless it's cocked and locked, and the thumb strap goes in between the hammer and the gun. Then for many years, I also carried it in this holster, which is a Bianchi number 4 concealment holster. And this is a great holster. I still occasionally carry the gun in that. And obviously it has no thumb strap at all, and no retention other than the retention of the holster, and the gun I've carried always cocked and locked. All right, but before I get into Condition 1, 2, and 3, which are the differences, let's talk about whether the gun is safe in the first place. All right, I have had many people say, if you carry the gun cocked and locked and you drop it, it's going to go bang. Okay, well, unfortunately, the statistics say otherwise, and so let's talk about that briefly. First of all, I don't know how many multiple millions of 1911s have been created since the dawn of when they were built. They're actually designed back, I believe, in 1910 and adopted by the United States military in 1911. They are over 100 years old in design, and multiple millions of them have been sold to government agencies, military, police, and civilians. And over that span of time, I'm sure that many of those folks have dropped the gun. And if it went off constantly every time it was dropped, we'd be hearing about it in the news ad infinitum. It is one of the most popular pistol designs in the United States today, and indeed civilians carrying them all over the place, including me, and a lot of them carry them cocked and locked. Excuse me. Not only that, they're carried by the military probably in Condition 3, we'll talk about in a minute, and there are many police officers today that carry them in a cocked and locked condition, including many SWAT agencies carry them. I know of 2 or 3 just right off the top of my head that carry as their duty pistol for their special weapons officers and special and response team officers is a 1911 carried in Condition 1, cocked and locked. So if they were dangerous, and we'd hear about it constantly in the news, that's the first thing. I can tell you specifically that I know of many instances that I have read about in industry magazines and law enforcement magazines and so on, where officers have dropped the pistol while wrestling with a suspect. It's landed on the ground and not gone off. Where they've been in traffic accidents or banged up against heavy pieces of equipment, and the gun has actually been bent or damaged, or the hammer bent or the hammer broken off. The gun did not fire and did not go off. I can tell you of one instance I read about in an industry magazine many years ago where an officer was wrestling with a suspect on a multi-story parking lot. The gun got loose of him, went off the side of the parking lot several stories, hit the ground on the hammer, broke the hammer completely off the gun, and the gun did not go off. I personally was chasing an individual who needed to be chased at the time across a parking lot when my gun popped out of that very Tex Shoemaker holster I showed you a moment ago and landed on the concrete, and the gun did not go off. So there are countless examples of 1911s being dropped, banged against, bent, damaged, crashed in cars, and all kinds of other things without the guns going off when they're cocked and locked. So just so that you know, there's a tremendous amount of evidence that shows that carrying it cocked and locked is entirely safe from the standpoint of the pistol dropping, crashing, banging, bending, whatever, and not going off. Now, there's the other thing to look at. If you think about it, if you owned a manufacturing business in the United States today, and you manufactured a product that every time that product was dropped, it could kill someone, how long would you be in business? You'd have been sued into oblivion a very long time ago. You would not exist. You would have no money. Your company would be gone. And that product would never be made by another company as long as time in memoriam. It would never be made, ever, because that thing is inherently dangerous. A 1911 style pistol would certainly not be sold in a state like California that forces these companies to do drop tests on these things in order to be able to sell them here in the first place. And yet, I can stand here, you can do it probably better than I, and I can list the dozen or so companies who currently make 1911 style pistols and sell them in droves to military, law enforcement, security officers, and civilians who carry them almost entirely, with the exception of the military probably, in condition 1, cocked and locked. If it wasn't safe to do so, it wouldn't be being done. So that's one argument that I think we need to look at when we look at these things. The idea that the 1911 is inherently dangerous when carried cocked and locked is absolutely, completely, and totally a myth. It just is. Now, you may disagree with me. I get it. I understand. We can agree to disagree. But unfortunately, in this argument, you're going to lose this argument because I've got the facts on my side. Is it possible you could drop a 1911, it will go off? Sure. That's also possible with any other gun, like a Glock, which is my understanding that the striker is half cocked all the time. Or a Springfield XD. Again, my understanding is the Springfield XD striker is at full cock all the time with a loaded chamber. Now, I believe that's true. If it isn't, please correct me. But if it is, what's the difference between a polymer pistol with a full cocked striker on a loaded chamber and a 1911 with a full cocked hammer and a thumb safety on a chamber? Now, here's one more argument before I show you the conditions 1, 2, and 3. If John Browning didn't intend for the 1911 to be carried cocked and locked, why did he put a thumb safety on it in the first place? You will notice, if I pull this pistol out, that with the hammer not cocked, the safety won't move. It does not engage. It will not do anything. The only time that safety will engage is when the hammer is cocked. So if John Browning didn't expect it to be carried this way, why would he create a safety that could only be used when the hammer is cocked? So now let's get into the 3 ways that you can carry a 1911 loaded. And since one is called condition 1, that sort of hints that there might be a condition 2 and there actually is a condition 3. Let's start out with condition 3. Condition 3 with a 1911 means that when you're carrying the gun, you're carrying it with a loaded magazine. Now this one isn't, but that's what we're going to be carrying it with, we'll pretend. And you've got an unloaded chamber. The hammer is down on an unloaded chamber, the magazine is loaded, and the gun is holstered. And that's condition 3. That means that when you draw the gun, you have to draw the gun, rack the slide, and that loads around before you can actually engage your target, whatever that may be, whatever bad guy or a person that you're dealing with. That is arguably the safest way to carry the 1911 pistol. It's also arguably the slowest way to get the darn thing into action. And it does create a problem when you have to use that extra hand. It might be busy doing something else. Now, condition 2 is a different way of doing it. With condition 2, you have a loaded magazine, you have a loaded chamber, so magazine in the gun, chamber racked, loaded chamber, and now you have to lower the hammer, press the trigger and lower the hammer safely without firing the gun. In order to get the gun in action once it's holstered, that means you've got to draw the pistol, cock the hammer, and then the gun is in action. Now that's a little quicker than condition 3, but it does have its own issues. And one is there are documented cases where people in the process of cocking the hammer with their finger on the trigger have had the hammer slip off of their thumb and the gun has gone bang. There have been many, many, many documented cases of people loading the gun once it's all done and pressing the trigger to let the hammer down and having it slip loose and the gun goes bang. So, you know, one of the old jokes is that this method is best used when you're standing in your grassy backyard or on a mound of dirt or in a freshly plowed field out in a farm or somewhere anywhere that the ground is really soft so that you don't have a round ricocheting all over the place every time you load your gun or try to holster it. So it's not the most safe way to carry the gun. And I would say of the 3, this is the least safe way to do it because it is the most prone to accidents when you're trying to decock the hammer. Now, there are many who have said, I've carried the gun in condition 2 for decades and I've never had a problem. And you know, that's true. There are many people who have carried the gun that way and never had a problem. There are also many people who have tried to carry the gun that way and had a problem. So just because you haven't doesn't mean that many people haven't. Many people actually have. So, condition 1 is where the hammer is cocked on a loaded chamber and the safety is engaged and the gun is holstered. The thumb simply disengages the safety as the gun rotates forward, and then the finger is kept off the trigger until such time as you're ready to shoot. That's just a training issue, isn't it? This has been proven over many decades to be a safe way to carry the gun, and it is, without question, the fastest way to get the gun into action. Anyway, thank you again for watching. If you are not a member of the NRA and you like videos, I want to urge you to join. I've got a link right here for you to do that. It'll save you a little bit of money, and you can join the NRA for less than the cost of a box of ammunition for a year. Likewise, if you carry a gun like I do every day, or you have a gun for home defense, or you might need a gun to defend yourself and never use it, you're going to get sued and arrested and all these other horrible things. It doesn't really matter what state you're in. These things are really possible, and they can devastate your life. You can end up losing everything after you've fought off a criminal. It's weird that the United States is like that, but it is. Worse so in my state than in some, but pretty much the same around the country. And that's why I use a service called Second Call Defense. I got a link right here for you to check it out, and I urge you to check it out too. They'll provide you with some money for legal defense and bail yourself out of jail and get a lawyer on the phone with you immediately so you can get that attorney between you and the police when they want to pepper you full of questions and you're frightened and nervous and full of adrenaline. That's the worst time in the world to be answering questions put to you by the police. In fact, my suggestion is you don't answer any questions at all. You get your attorney between them and you wait until you've calmed down and you speak to your attorney only. Well, in order to have an attorney in the middle of the night, unless you are an attorney or your best friend is or something, you're going to need one that's actually available because most of them are at home sleeping. And if that's the case, having a service like Second Call Defense will help you a lot. So I urge you to check them out. It's a service we use for our family, and I urge you to check them out for yours. Thank you again for watching. Have a wonderful week, and please be safe.